All right, I'm back with part two, so let's keep going. 40 is looking at what is culture. Remember that culture is just that way of tradition. It's the way of life. It's how things go. So it's traditions, values, beliefs, objects, anything that really contributes to your way of life and how you enjoy to live your life. That's part of your culture. Remember that for every single person, culture is unique. It can be different from one person to the next. Even though you may be sitting in the same room with them, it's still going to be, your culture can be completely different. 41, what's the basic fundamental unit called of culture? It's cultural traits. It's, things like a government, a religious belief, an artifact, your cell phone, the single belief, like things like thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, that kind of stuff. All of those are cultural traits. 43, what's making that spread of culture happen much faster than ever before? Globalization and technology. How can you watch a TikTok video from someone in China mere seconds after they post it on TikTok? This is how. 44, what's an artifact? It's a physical object related to culture. So something like your cell phone. It could also be something like a family heirloom that gets passed down. It can be a car if it's part of your culture or whatever. Anything can really, some physical thing that is part of you or that is important to you is an artifact. 46, what is a mentafact? All right, remember that artifacts are physical. Menta is a mental thing, so it's going to be like a belief, a value, an idea that's key to your culture. So for some, it may be their language if they speak English, or it may be Creole if you're in the South, or Cajun, or whatever. Like it can be a different kind of language. It can be that you're multilingual, whatever. Like it can be anything that you want it to be, as long as it is a belief or value. It's not something that you're going to be able to touch. And then a sociofact, remember that socio means society, so it's going to be something that is a cultural structure or organization. So things like school, a religion, your government, all of those things are going to be sociofacts. What are the two main types of culture? There's folk culture, very traditional. Pop culture changes very, very rapidly, as you can see with what happens on TikTok and what is trending one day and what is not trending the next. Very much of a quickly, rapidly changing type of thing. 53, what's a custom? It's a standardized behavior. So shaking hands with someone, bowing to show a sign of respect in Japanese culture or anything like that. It's a standardized behavior that's accepted, which is how it differs from being a taboo, which is a discouraged behavior in society. Like cannibalism. Don't be eating people. As I spell society wrong. All right, so remember, custom, accepted behavior. Taboo, not so much. No cannibals. All right. I answered 56 and 57, so we're on to 58. What's a lingua franca? Remember that lingua franca, since, again, we have so many different types of languages on the planet. A lingua franca is that common language that's spoken between two people to help them to talk, to help them to be able to communicate with one another. So it's a common language spoken between two people. Cultural relativism is that unbiased way of looking at cultures. It's a way of looking at it and going, oh, okay, I understand that, I see that, and looking at it without putting your own judgment, your own culture into it. If you start to do that, now you're into ethnocentrism, which is looking at a culture through your own biases and stuff like that. All right? Or question 60, when you're looking at the two, judging one culture without any biases is cultural relativism. Ethnocentrism is looking at a culture through your own biases and saying, oh, well, I wouldn't do that because this is what I do. That type of thing. 61, a cultural landscape. Again, we kind of talked about this in page 1. It's a blend of looking at how humans interact with their physical environment and how all of that kind of works together. 62. So now we're into the stuff that we just finished talking about. So what are our 3 characteristics of a sovereign state? Defined borders, permanent population and government, and the important part, recognition by a foreign government. I can secede my house from the United States. I can say that, my property line, I have a permanent border, I have a population that lives within my house, and I have a government, dictatorship, me. But it requires that third part, that recognition by foreign government. Without that, you're not a sovereign state. 63, you're defining a state. It's an independent political unit. Remember that the state involves politics. That's the only way. Because a nation is about people and culture. So 64, what's the difference between a state and a nation? State is political, nation's about people and culture. 65, what is subnationalism? That's loyalty to a group, a cultural or ethnic group over the state. So it would be saying that, the people of Quebec, they are more loyal to the province of Quebec than they are being Canadian, despite the fact that Quebec is part of Canada. So that's where you would have that problem. 66, what's the term that's used to describe seeking violent or using violence to destabilize a region? That's terrorism. 67, what's an enclave? It's a sovereign territory surrounded by another sovereign territory. So, like Vatican City. Vatican City is its own enclave within the city of Rome, which is in Italy. But Vatican City is not part of Italy. It is its own country, its own sovereign area. It just happens to have a very small set of borders, and it's located within the state of Italy. 69, we're looking at our challenges to the modern state. Remember, the global economy, it weakens sovereign states because an event that happens in one country has a big impact on events that happen in other countries now because they're all tied together. 2, the development of non-governmental organizations. So the fact that we have things like the World Bank and the World Health Organization and Doctors Without Borders, all of these things are weakening or are a challenge to the modern state that would be able to control their own things like their own economy, their own healthcare, that kind of stuff. Migration, as people move, obviously it's going to create challenges. They're moving from one area that could be war-torn to an area that may not want them. So it creates that problem. The increase in non-governmental organizations. So not only are they developing and getting better at what they do, but we're getting more of them. There's constantly new non-governmental tied organizations that are trying to help the people of the world, regardless of where they're from. And that's the difference, really, when you look at it. They don't care where they're from. They know that they're humans and they deserve basic human rights. And as a result, they're trying to help them. Centrifugal forces. Remember, these are internal issues that help to break apart a country. Centripetal forces pull them together. Centrifugal forces push them apart. So things like separatists, they are going to absolutely try and break apart a modern state. And the last one, terrorism, obviously we've talked about that one, so we know terrorism is going to be a challenge no matter where you're at. 70, countries that are highly centralized governments, those are unitary states. A federal state, for 71, is your government decisions are spread out amongst the different regions. So like the United States has a federal government because they make decisions on a national level, but yet they allow the states, like Illinois, or the territories like Illinois and Florida can make their own decisions about what's going on in Florida and what's going on in Illinois. And that allows that decision-making process to kind of be spread apart. Whereas centralized governments make the decisions for everyone. And what happens in Illinois is the same that's going to happen in Florida because that's what the central government says. 72, what are our two types of boundaries? We have natural boundaries, we have geometric boundaries or artificial boundaries. Natural ones, rivers, mountains, deserts, things like that, things that you're going to see on the actual face of the earth. Geometric ones or artificial ones are going to be things that are man-made, so like the border between the U.S. and Canada. There's not anything that I can walk up to the U.S. and Canada and see that would be any different as far as physical territory between the two countries, other than the fact that now there may be a fence there that was put there by humans. So it's not anything natural, because fence is not natural. 73, what is the term used to describe undying loyalty to one's country, traditions, people? That's nationalism. Here are the two that are going to bring them apart and bring them together. Remember, centrifugal is going to pull or bring them apart. Right? It's going to break things apart, push them away. Centripetal are going to pull them together or hold them in. 76, the economic or the exclusive economic zone. So that's where countries have control over the resources and decisions that go on within 200 miles of their physical territory out into the open oceans, which answers 77. It's 200 miles. So actually, right, miles. There as well. All right, 78. What organization is responsible for promoting world peace through international cooperation? That's the United Nations. 79, name an example of a military cooperation organization. That's NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. 80, it's the essay question. It is the essay question that you'll see on your final exam as well. So there's your helpful hint for watching the video. Explain the difference between relocation and expansion diffusion. Expansion's the rapid spread of culture, right? It's through the interaction of people. It can happen through a variety of methods, like watching viral TikTok videos. Relocation's going to be much slower because it relies on people to relocate, hence why it's called relocation diffusion. It requires them to move from one place to the other, and as they move, they bring their culture with them, and their culture spreads within the little bit that they moved to, before eventually spreading out as people kind of move from there. Again, it's much, much slower than expansion diffusion, which moves at a much rapid pace because it goes out through a variety of different methods, like watching TV, like watching TikTok videos, YouTube, whatever. Like, globalization really does help expansion diffusion happen at a much rapid pace than culture or than relocation. All right, that is all for your videos. Hopefully you have both pages of your study guide all filled out. If not, please, please, please get them all filled out and use them to study for your final exam on Friday. If you have questions while you're working, please shoot me an email. I will check my email periodically throughout the day tomorrow. Otherwise, I will see you on Friday. Good luck with your studying.